You're listening to a Pop House Network podcast for developers by developers.
Hello and welcome to the Stacked Podcast episode number 73, recorded on May 31st, 2024. We are back. We've been putting out new episodes, but we haven't recorded in a while. So it's great to have everyone back here. My name is Kito Man. I'm your host, and I'm here with a couple of my co-hosts, Josh Juno. Hello, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. And also Daniel Hinojosa. Hola, Daniel.
Hello.
And unfortunately, Ian Levitz, our elusive additional member, is not with us this time, but hopefully he will be here next time. I was gonna say, what have I been up to since last time? And I guess, Danno and I were at a couple conferences. I think that's probably the most interesting thing. So we were at DevNexus in Atlanta, Georgia. Anthony, were you there as well at DevNexus? You weren't? Okay. So I was going to say, I don't remember seeing you, but it doesn't mean you weren't there. So we're DevNexus in Atlanta, Georgia, which is probably hands down like one of the best Java conferences on the planet. And then a couple of weeks later, we were at the Great International Developer Summit in Bangalore, India, with some other awesome people. And that was a lot of fun as well. And I got to hang out for a couple extra days there too. So I think I did like 5 or 6 sessions, and I think Danno did several, and lots of other great people like Venkat Subramanian and then Matt Davis and a whole bunch of other great guys. Tim Berkman were there. And so kind of what I've been up to other than normal consulting stuff. But I must say, I feel like for whatever reason, since I got back from that trip, which has been about 3 or 4 weeks now, I feel like I've been treading water. It's sort of like I got back and then it took a while to get back in the swing of things. And then like all this like end of school year stuff happened with my kids, and then like people got sick. So I'm hoping that now that summer is starting, that things will slow down a bit, and I'll be able to,
Right.
feel like I'm in a groove again. I've lost the groove.
Yeah, international travel is just tough all around, unless it's like, you're, I don't know, maybe Andres will have a different perspective. Like, and I guess, traveling within Europe, even though that's international, like let's say, you go from Switzerland to the UK. I mean, that's international, but that's not too far. It's not going to wreck your brain in any way. Just like I'm in New Mexico, if I go to New York, I'll be a little bit sleepy, but I'll be fine when I get back. But India, man, it's just the need for repair as far as sleep goes, health, and all these others. I love going, but you got to plan for things aren't going to work well for a while.
Yeah. And then you look at people like Venkat, that's like, he's getting home, and then like 2 days later he's going somewhere else.
Traveling with him, I think there's one thing as well, because he has status, and I think getting first class seats goes a long way. Because if you travel like coach internationally, you're gonna be a mess. Like, but if you have like a bigger seat that you get, some semblance of rest, then I think you're good-ish. I think you're still miserable, but you're a little bit better off.
I think it's kind of required for that much travel. I mean, you really, the long flight coach experience is not something which can be done frequently.
Coach is hard, man. Coach is really hard.
It is. And unfortunately, I don't really fly frequently enough. I'm starting to get a little bit some points now, but it's not like I'm one of the people that flies every weekend or something like that. So I'm not really getting many miles.
I won't name names, but there's one speaker that we know who paid $10K to fly to India for having the best seats, but you get points off of it. So where is it you want to spend money?
Yeah. I think I know where that is. All right. So Josh, what have you been up to?
I'm like you with respect to the end of year things with the school. So it's been busy. Had a couple of, I had an eighth grade graduation and I had a younger one being promoted. And so lots of that stuff. Track was ending. So I've got a couple of boys in track. So that's been a busy time, but all is good and everyone's doing well. And
That's good.
I've been trying to kind of get more into the AI thing because that's going to be becoming more and more a part of our lives as developers, I think, moving
Yep.
forward. So I've been trying to learn a little bit more about the different AI libraries and whatnot for Java and also what else is out there. And that's kind of the newer side of things I've been trying to work with.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I've been taking the angle of more the angle of what are the best productivity tools. That's why I have a session on it that obviously is quite popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've watched a lot. I've watched and read a lot about actual writing code, but have not done it yet. Um, so I'd like to do that. Have you subscribed to Keith's wait, what was it? My brain is not working today. All right, I'll get back to that later. Anyways, Danno, anything else you want to share about the last couple months until last recording?
No, India. Took a tour with Venkat. That was kind of cool. And after
Where'd you tour?
went to gigs in Bengaluru, then we flew over to Delhi, and we did a Java user group there. Doing a lot of Java user groups. Did Tampa, did Des Moines. So it's been great. And it's weird. Sometimes I don't plan things. I'll just say stuff out of nowhere, and then I just end up doing them. And last year, I was telling my partner Don, you know what, I just want to do a lot more Java user groups. No plan whatsoever. It just ended up like that. So
That's cool. That's
I'll
cool.
just keep the tradition alive then.
I've been doing more user groups, but and some of them have actually. I even did one for .NET user group because I was talking about
Yeah.
web components and lit, so it's
Oh,
strong
cool.
development. Um, but I've been doing a lot of virtual ones, but not as many in-person ones. So
You know what? If I did a .NET user group, I would use subliminal messages to try to convert them into Java, like in my slides. Like not really be obtuse about it, but just tiny little things.
right. That'll be interesting. All right. Well, we should introduce our guest. I mentioned his name a couple times. We didn't say who he was. Our special guest this episode is Andres Almiray. I'm sure I said that wrong, but anyways, so Andres has been with us a couple times. He is the senior principal product manager at Oracle. I'm sorry, a senior principal product manager at Oracle. And a super Java guy. So he's a Java champion. He's been doing this for over 20 years. And he's also worked on Groovy, Griffon, DbUnit, and also a whole bunch of other of your own products, which my God, Json-lib, EZMorph, GraphicsBuilder, JideBuilder, and you're a founding member of Griffon, which is a UI framework for Groovy, which is awesome. And which isn't mentioned here is in the little bio that I'm reading is he's also you're the founder of JReleaser. You're the founder of JReleaser, right? I know you're like the primary committer, but okay. Yeah, and JReleaser is an awesome tool, which we'll talk about. And I think that's probably your current beat.
And this is part 2, so we're gonna ask more about JReleaser because there's a previous podcast of all of us where we talk about or ask about JReleaser. So we're gonna get some updates, but we'll also reintroduce JReleaser to everyone who needs to know about it.
Yeah. So welcome back. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me back again. And I guess I didn't do a bad job last time, so I was invited to come back again.
Yes, you were indeed. And now I'm remembering all the different things we talked about. The joy of the CLI. Anyways, okay. So we're glad to have you. And I think, fortunately, a lot of the things that you want to talk about are like sort of topics that we normally talk about. So we can just integrate you into our normal flow. Although I do have a couple questions for you that I want to ask you as well. Let's just go through our topics. Unfortunately, since Ian is here, we don't really have much front-end stuff because I have not seen anything in particular that I want to bring up in the front-end side of things. But we'll start with server-side Java. And I guess the first one is actually, it's server-side, but also web as well. If anyone's been around in the Java ecosystem for a while, you may have heard something back in the day called Grails, which is a server-side web framework built using Groovy and runs on the Java virtual machines. That's been around for a long time. When it came out, of course, it was the best thing since sliced bread, like many things. And it's been around. It's been under development, but apparently the company, the main contributor, which was Object Computing, the main funder, I should say, has decided they need to move on because they feel they're really the only ones that have been giving resources to its development. And also, we all know pure server-side Java-based frameworks aren't really, so hip these days. So they have written an open letter, and basically now they're saying, sorry, you guys can continue. There's a Grails Foundation, which will continue to exist, but they're no longer going to be moving forward with it. And they spent over $7 million since 2015 to advance Grails from version 3 to its current state, which is 6.2. So
I remember when that was it. I was going to cuss, but I'll stick to the word it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Groovy was exciting. Grails was exciting. I ended up JBoss seaming it. I don't know what you think, and I'm at least for me, as my opinion, it is you're going to fall in love as a programmer. And I'll just talk straight to all the Gen Z and younger crowd right now. Me too, heart to heart. You're going to fall in love with a web framework, and then it'll go away, and then you'll never find a home again. I don't know if anybody agrees with me. Like you'll absolutely fall in love with a framework, and then it just becomes unpopular or just becomes discontinued, and that's it. Like you'll get an idea of what a web framework is, and you'll find yourself having to work with one, but you'll never be happy ever again.
That's really depressing, man.
As it happens with Grails, when it was at top of its game some years ago, Grails had 20% of the market share of all the JVM frameworks for writing web applications. So that is a huge portion of the market. Because there were so many. Nowadays, we don't have that many. It's just a few. And so Spring Boot is the most popular one. There's no denying them. Then to have the market share was pretty substantial.
Right.
I still
that
know
was a huge drop.
Yeah, I know that there are still some Grails developers out there. I am friends with a few, and it's not that that's their main framework, but they still maintain applications in it and whatnot. So I'm sure it will still be around for a while if someone doesn't pick it up and continue to move it along in open source. But it seems like a lot of people who were using Grails are moving to like Micronaut and things like this.
I think there was a hammer somewhere that was called microservices, and I think you could just write a Grails microservice. I don't think that really matters, but if you're unable to market under that umbrella, then Spring Boot is going to drink your milkshake.
Yeah, I find similar things happening with Jakarta Faces or JSF. I use JSF every day, and I love it. It's a great front end for microservices alike, as well as the monolithic applications. But it seems like people are trending away from it. and that's unfortunate in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's, yeah, like you said, it happens with all the web frameworks. Eventually, something does, take a foot, and is more people popular, gleaming onto it. And I think Spring Boot is that one right now.
Yeah, but I don't think it's really a good comparison though, because well, first of all, I'm not super familiar enough with Grails to know like I mean wasn't it more like a Model 2 sort of framework or like it's sort of like Spring MVC essentially,
It's like, yeah,
in
it's like,
terms
Yeah,
of
the scaffolding was the big ticket item that it provided.
yeah, okay.
yeah,
So, for me, I mean, I guess you could say it competes against Spring Boot in the sense that Spring Boot uses Spring MVC and then you could have whatever views you want. But if you were going to write like a REST endpoint or microservice in Groovy, it seems like Rails would be a good choice for it. If you wanted a REST API or something.
yeah,
But then with JSF is like different because it's like it does all the UI stuff. So to me, JSF is like it's more of a combination of what's traditionally these days a JavaScript framework and the backend. So it's different, like apples and oranges to me. And
yeah.
that's why like I have actually one client where it's a Spring Boot app, but it's the JSF user interface. And they migrated from Tomcat to that, and they did split out the services. So there's actually a couple Spring Boot apps, but then there's a project that integrates JSF and Spring Boot. We've got CI and Spring integration going on. So I don't know. I think it's just a different sort of thing. And the question for anything like any server-side framework like JSF is there a way to compete with to do a little more of what the front-end frameworks do, but not necessarily the same thing, because a lot of them are starting to do back-end stuff now too. But it's all JavaScript or TypeScript, so it's a little bit easier to go back and forth. Right? So, anyways, that's down a rabbit hole there. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I agree. Like a lot of times, it's not worth rewriting stuff. And actually, what I think some of the this AI these AI tools will actually make it a little bit easier to maintain legacy code, right? Because if you have no idea how to do something in said X framework that existed 10 years ago, you can actually now get a code snippet, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I was one of my complaints about AI is I expected to know everything about JDK 23 or JDK 22. I asked a question about sequence collections, and AI was just like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Are you talking about this thing? Or just like, well, you're kind of useless for me for any kind of new stuff. But for any kind of legacy stuff, knows the answers to everything. So I think it'll play a pivotal role of like, how AI and code works together. And so, what's going to be more important to you? Code that you know and code that the AI knows as part of a tool set, or bleeding edge. That's going to be an interesting trade-off.
Well, also for recent things, there's tools like this was my pick several months ago, phind.com, it's a search engine. I mean, but it uses generative AI, and it actually will do a search and then summarize the results for you. So then you can that's a good way to get more recent stuff because it finds answers from Stack Overflow and stuff. So I think that'll change too. So. All right, so second topic, JakartaEE 11 forthcoming. This is your topic, right, Josh?
Yeah, I added this in here just so everybody is on the lookout, because I think probably when this podcast is released or shortly thereafter, we're going to be getting very close to the release of JakartaEE 11. If you look at the release plan, they are indicating it will happen somewhere in June or July 2024. Now, when you watch the mailing list, it seems like it might not be quite there, might be a little bit later than that, but I'm not very close to any of the particular specifications right now, so it could be right on target. But what I do know is it will be happening soon here. So hopefully this summer we'll be seeing a new release of JakartaEE.
Yeah, and just to just going from this document. There's new features, enhancements, or additions are support for Java records, JDK runtime aware, support for virtual threads, Jakarta Data 1.0, which is a brand new spec, and then pruning of managed beans, which was an older dependency injection feature in Java server faces, or faces as they call it now. Remove all uses of security manager and remove all optional specifications. There's a whole bunch of other things too, but those are just the big highlights.
Yeah, and if you're interested in using JDK 21 with Jakarta, and this will be the release you want to go to, because you'll be able to use certain features of that as well if you're using JDK 21. So it will be nice.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing, because I've been following some of the specifications. I believe that the new bytecode level will be 11, and in which case many of the specifications, if not all, will also provide explicit Java module descriptors.
Nice.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, so that's my hope, is that this move will certainly help more projects embrace the Java module system, and because the specifications are the cornerstone for many dependencies, that will just continue pushing downstream into other projects, so that we as application builders will be able to benefit from all the good things that the Java module system provides.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So for those who don't know, Andres, what would be the benefit? Like, what does module info give us?
The first benefit the Java platform team addresses with this with the module system, well, originally was just for the JDK, but it's now also in user space of application space. And the reason to use it is so that as a designer of a library that should be consumed by applications, you can encapsulate certain packages, certain classes, certain behavior that should be publicly accessible and readable by external consumers, and some other things that you really want to keep in a private space. In the past, we used to use the package private visibility to get around this issue, but you can always use reflection and break out of the box. When you have proper encapsulation with the Java module system, there is no way that you can break it with with reflection. So as a designer, now you have this choice of hiding things that are definitely implementation details that no one should see, no one should play around, because you know better how to do things. And what should be definitely publicly visible, just like that. And so that I didn't think that I could do this, but I started to play a role modular library. And I must confess that it's actually true. This does help a lot. It takes a while to get used to, but one.
Yeah, I think you dropped out there. Were you guys able to hear that last part?
No, it froze on my end, but I thought it was because I didn't pay my internet bill.
Hey there.
So what I said is that it took me a while to get used to the module system, but once you do, you see that things are falling into place, and it does make sense to use the module system. So one of the drawbacks that we have right now is, in order to make your application truly modular, your dependencies must be modular as well. And there are a lot of projects that are still waiting on the fence. So should we jump to modules because my other dependencies aren't? So now that we hopefully have this bigger push coming from the Jakarta specifications, then more projects will jump in, and that will eventually help everybody else. And that's what we want. We just want to be better, all of us.
That's kind of trickle-down effect.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. I had a question like further down, but since we're on the topic, do you want to tell us about Larry and how that's related to the module system and what that brings?
Yeah, Larry is a project created by a Java champion named Gunnar Morling. He has created a lot of projects also related to the module system. And Larry, it's kind of like a DSL on top of an API that is available in the JDK since Java 9. This is called Module Layer. The Module Layer API allows you to create isolated class loaders on which you have a certain set of modules within. You can create a hierarchy of different class loaders in such a way that you will be able to load classes correctly going from one to the other. Now, Larry makes it much, much easier to work with this module layer API because otherwise you have to do it programmatically. But Larry allows you to use an external configuration file, whether it's YAML or TOML, I believe that we made it also possible. So that makes it a breeze to configure these kind of applications. You could define conflicting modules. Say you have one version of Log4j and a different version of Log4j in another completely different module. And for whatever reasons, these two versions must be available in your application. If you do this in the regular class path, one of them is going to win and the others will be discarded, right? And your application may not work depending on the order. But if you use the modules, then you can put these things in isolation and set up the module layers and the application will run. Now, again, these conflicted modules could, in some cases, you could remove and then just have one of them. But if for whatever reason you must have duplicates, you can still use the module layer API to make this work.
That's pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And it's spelled, if you're going to look for it, I forgot. Larray.
Yeah,
it's Larry. LAYRRI. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and it'll be in the show notes at stackedpodcast.com, STACD podcast.com. Excuse me. So just so everybody knows, I'm under the weather, so I'm kind of like, trying not to hack up along into the mic here. So, all right, cool. So moving along, let's talk about tools, and let's talk about one of our favorite tools, JReleaser. So tell us what's been going on with the tool. And first of all, let's say what it does for those who don't know.
JReleaser is a tool that helps you release any kind of project. Originally, it was intended for releasing desktop applications written in JavaFX, so Java-based applications, but then it grew to in such a way that you can release command line tools, regular Maven libraries, or any other kind of binary, even if the source language is not Java. So again, it works for any kind of project. And since the last time that we discussed the topic, we have added we have fixed a lot of issues that have been reported by our users. So that makes me happy because the project has had much more involvement with the community. But the most recent release that happened in April, actually the 1st of May of 2024, so this year, we added support for the recently released Sonatype portal, which is the new API that you must use to publish to Maven Central. The way that we currently use Maven and Grails to publish to Maven Central works with the previous API. I am not aware that there is a Grails plugin that uses the new portal API. I know that Sonatype has built a new Maven plugin for the portal API, which I don't know exactly what is the current status. I think is out there. So JReleaser gives you that option now as well, with the same way as we did it before, such that you stage the artifacts in a local directory, in the way you stage it in the same layout that it should go into the remote. And when you configure the different settings in JReleaser, the tool can verify that your POM files comply with the rules for publication to Maven Central. Because most typically what happens when you are doing the first publication, you may miss one XML element, like, I don't know, you didn't put the license, or you're missing the SCM information or something like that. So, and then you go back and forth, talking to Maven Central, doing these multiple publications until you get it right. Well, JReleaser consumes another tool called POM Checker that can run these rules in your local environment. So you have a much faster feedback loop because you're doing everything locally. So you get that done, and you get the signatures, and you get the SHAs and all the checksums, And you do this right there, local in your local environment. And once you're ready, you just simply push to your remote and then you're done. That's one of the key advantages of these tools. Access to a much quicker feedback while you're doing things in your local environment, or CI if you want to, without having to touch the remote servers or the remote services and having a much longer feedback loop until we get things right.
And I should mention that while you do publish to Maven, or Maven Central, I should say, you also can publish to any package manager, right?
We publish to a lot of package managers, yes.
Yeah.
The last one that we added, since we discussed the topic, is Winget. So for those that consume on Windows, then you can also use Winget. So you can use Chocolati and Scoop before, but Winget is also quite popular for Windows users. So we also support it as well.
Right. And you also, of course, in Homebrew. And do you do any Linux package managers?
Yes, we do a Snapcraft and Flatpak explicitly.
Cool.
Few tickets to support other Linux specific package managers.
All right, excellent. And what else is new with JReleaser?
We finally, in the last release, we were able to verify that all the artifacts that we published to Maven Central are reproducible. So there is this ongoing effort to make Linux distributions reproducible. It's called reproduciblebuilds.org.
Cool.
And the thing that we want to keep with this particular effort is that when you build certain source, you build binaries from a particular source. If you have two different environments, or you have two different nodes where you're building, and these environments are somehow compatible, when you rebuild the binaries, then they should be bit by bit equal.
Right.
And if you aren't able to ensure this, then you can definitely say this particular tag for your source repository is fully reproducible. So we are able to do that now for all our Maven deployable artifacts. Everything that we push to Maven Central is now fully reproducible. And besides that, we sign all the artifacts. We also produce SBonds with SPDX and CycloneDX. And we also produce provenance with Salsa. So this is coming from slsa.dev, which is another effort coming from the OpenSSF Foundation. So overall, now that we have all these things built together within the tool, and it's most important, I should remind our listeners that JReleaser consumes itself for its own releases, which means that everything that I just mentioned can be done for your own project. So you can have Salsa provenance and SBombs and reproducible builds. At least we can get ahead. You still have to do things on your own side as well. And we also produce another thing, which is called SWID tags. This is something, there's another standard coming from the National Standard Institute from the US. So if you are building software for the government, they will likely ask you first for SBombs and second for SWID tags, which obviously the tool can provide that. So I'm happy to say that in the latest release, we provide all these additional metadata. Everything is reproducible. We can verify those things, and you can also verify that. And because JReleaser does this using itself, it means that you can see how JReleaser has done it for its own project, and you can apply those techniques for your own projects whenever you need to do these kind of things.
Cool. Let me define some things, because I'm sure not a lot of our audience knows about it. Provenance just means history, or what's the story behind it, correct? Or do you have a different definition for that?
That you can tell, yeah, you can tell who and when and where the artifact is coming from.
Okay. All right. And the other thing, the Cyclone, SPDX, SBombs. SBomb stands for bill of materials, but what does the S stand for? Standard bill of materials?
Software bill of materials.
Okay. Which
software
is
bill of materials.
Software bill of materials. So this is about and correct me if I'm wrong, knowing your history, knowing your provenance, knowing where things come from, what is built, and this is kind of like to guarantee that software hasn't changed. It's reproducible. So if you kind of tag a software as this is safe for us, then you know it's safe. Is that kind of the thing, or am I going
Yeah,
down the wrong tree?
so all these techniques and all these tools will have helped us pinpoint the exact moment when the XZ explode happened. So you probably have heard this from more than a month ago, that there's this popular library or small library in Linux distributions called XZ for compression.
Mm-hmm.
And there were two parts of the attack. One, there was social engineering on the main contributor. Right. He was being burnt out, and someone gained access to the repository because he was trying to be helpful. So there are ways that we could have helped prevent that. But after that happened, once the attacker was able to gain access to the source code, they published a version of the source code, which was fine, but the binaries that were published were already hacked. They had malware. Eventually, someone noticed that this was going on because his system was being slowed down for whatever reason. He did some sort of investigation. So if the XZ builds and the XZ source code was deemed reproducible, anyone else will have been able to check that the binaries were actually reproducible or not. And in this case, we know they weren't, because the source and the binaries were completely different. So that would have been faster. But if they also had provenance and the signatures and the SBOMs, then this attacker would have had it would have been much more harder for this person to inject additional code into the binary. So this is why it's important to have not just one or two of these methodologies and techniques. We have to have all of them. Because when we built in this redundancy that we can verify many different ways, it's much easier for us consumers to verify the nature and the provenance of, say, the artifacts, and it's much harder for the attackers to get into and do something that they shouldn't be doing.
Excellent.
So this is I'm sorry, the SLSA thing is actually new to me. So is this like just very recent, just since that?
Salsa, I think, is going on for at least 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Really? Okay. So yeah, interesting.
What? Yeah, go ahead, Kito.
Go ahead. I have a couple things to say, but go ahead first.
Yeah. So reproducible builds I've been getting into with Nix OS, where you can create essentially, and it's really cool because now I am rethinking. I love my SDK, man, but this one, you run it with a particular formula, .nix, default .nix file, and it brings in specific tools with a specific address, reproducible. So you could state, for my project, for this project, I want this version of Git, I want this version of Vi or Emacs or NVim or whatever, this version of Java, and this, and this, and this. And so when you launch Nix, like a Nix shell, then you end up with a shell with all that software. So think of it as like a session that you go into, and you have all those libraries for that particular session, and it's tethered along with your particular project. Do you see? Is there anything for JReleaser to look towards Nix OS or something else stored?
We do have an open ticket to support Nix as a package manager.
All right.
Which is has not yet touched, but yes, that's something that we're looking forward to as well, because Nix is quite popular for Linux enthusiasts, so it does make sense to address it as well.
Okay. Wow. Ooh, we're going to see where the future goes on that one.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the SDK man is wonderful, but you know, once people start getting used to Nix OS and you have your declarative, dependencies for development, they're in a Nix file, then you probably don't need an SDK man. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So you basically get a reproducible build environment.
Yes.
Your project doesn't make your project reproducible. That's a different thing. Because your source code has to be, and the way that you build has to be made reproducible. So with Nix, you're guaranteeing that the environment is reproducible, but your project is
Correct.
not. Or your project might not be. There are some techniques that you need to follow. So, for example, when you create an archive, you have to select a given timestamp that is reproducible. And you also have to have a deterministic order of the entries, which is typically sorted out by alphanumerically. But the contents of text files, such as JSON, XML, YAML, those things have to be reproducible. So you can have two JSON files that have the same sections, the same content with different order. Semantically, they're identical, but binary,
They're not.
they're different. So again, reproducible builds mean they have to be bit by bit identical.
Yes.
So just one thing that has one extra space identical. It goes even to check what are the file permissions on a given entry inside an archive. So if one entry is executable and you check the other archive and it's not executable, then those archives are not identical.
Interesting.
Fantastic.
I really like the emphasis on security here, because obviously that's top of mind, and also for most developers and my customers these days. And and I've done work where I had to go find out which SBOM to use. I think I picked Cyclone DX for this particular client, and then integrate that into the build and all that kind of stuff. And if I could have just used JReleaser and not had to think about it, that would have been really cool. And also, JReleaser also works with Gradle, right?
Yes, you can use it as a Gradle plugin or Maple plugin, or you can run it on CLI. That works for any other kind of project.
So, I mean, that's kind of cool because when it comes to generating an SBOM, I know with Cyclone DX, there's like a completely different Gradle plugin that doesn't work as well as the Maven plugin, and has some issues and bugs in it. So like just having to know that you can let JReleaser handle that stuff is nice. And I guess I have a question though. So a lot of the things that are in the tool make it really great for public releases. Like you can do announcements to Twitter and other services and things like that. But if you're just publishing to a local repo, a local Nexus instance, or a local repository internally in your company, and you just want to get all the goodies of all the security stuff built in and checksums and PGP signatures, does it work with that if I just say, hey, point to my local repo?
Not a problem. It works exactly the same way. So you can publish to any kind of compatible Maven repository. So you can publish to Artifactory or Apache Archiva, or what's the other one? Obviously, Sonatype Nexus,
Right.
Nexus 2. And you can also publish to GitHub packages or GitLab or Gitia. So you can use almost any Git server, Git software server, whether it's GitHub regular or GitHub Enterprise, it's GitLab or GitLab Enterprise. It just works the same. Whether you want to public in the open or you want to public in a private space in your organization, still the same. It still works.
Awesome. And I do think one of my favorite things about it is that you support YAML for configuration, but also TOML, JSON, a Maven DSL, and a Gradle DSL, because you recognize that one language does not fit all people. So that's awesome.
I just wanted to mention.
Exactly. So we can support different input formats.
Nice. I just wanted to mention that I haven't used JReleaser for anything yet, but I did have the question about the local repositories, and it's good to know that it works on local organizational repositories as well. I really like the way you've got your project, the JReleaser project set up, and it seems like a lot of the community contributions are well received there. You have a lot of community discussion. on board with JReleaser. It just seems like a really active project that's really well organized. Obviously, you want it to be in tip-top shape and organization because that's what it's all about, right? So I just wanted to let everyone know that they should visit the GitHub page and check it out and see, look at the discussions that are being had there. Lots of great information right there on that site.
Yeah, and by the way, you can find it at just jreleaser.org, so easy to find. So we had talked in the past about OpenRewrite. I don't know if we've talked about it on this podcast. I think we may have mentioned it. But OpenRewrite is a tool that makes it easy to do migration through different versions of code and things. I don't know a lot about it, to be honest. So perhaps I know there's been some collaboration, I think, with JReleaser. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, the OpenRewrite project does have its own release process, and one of the things that is good about the JReleaser tool is that you can select which behavior you want from the tool without having to change your whole release process. I know that OpenRewrite and some of the engineers were looking at JReleaser to configure the announcements whenever a release was posted while keeping the current release process in the same way. But I don't know exactly what I've been following the status of that, but they haven't done it yet because they have other pressing matters. They keep pushing out all the features. But what I do know about OpenRewrite is that it allows you it automates refactorings for all kind of things. So you write a rule that says this is the current state of the source, so that it matches certain patterns, and you want to move to another state of that code. And you may be able to apply those rules all the time, or depending on how your source look like, or you just apply it once. They have Maven and Grails plugins. They have a SaaS offering as well from Moderne, the company that is the stewards of OpenRewrite. And as far as I understand, they're doing a pretty good job. People that use the tool and use the services, they're quite happy with it. Because again, it helps you automate the boring stuff, which is migrating from Java 17 to 21, for example, or how do you migrate from Java 8 or 11 to use the latest APIs and the latest things from 21? You can do it by hand. Yeah, it's going to take a while and it's error prone. Or you can just let OpenRewrite apply all the rules and be done in just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I had heard of people using this for the migration from JakartaEE to JakartaEE as well. I think there's a tool that is utilizing OpenRewrite to make that jump, and it has been tested. I've tested it out, and it seemed like it worked really well. Made things a lot easier.
And this one ought to be easy just to convert everything to virtual threads. And that's just an easy migration to do there, I would think, as the recipe.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, looking at it, those are some loud birds. I mean, they've got, migrate from WebSphere traditional to Liberty. That's a nice one. Huh. But a lot of them are also just sort of generic things like, seriously? Like create Java class or change type and stuff like that. Right,
Great,
I just
fantastic.
talk while my birds serenade me.
That's right, the birds. Caw, caw, I love OpenRewrite. Excellent.
It'd be nice. It will be nice if we can use something like that to change all of our Java beans over to records at some point when we can start to use that for JakartaEE.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a rule for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Oh,
It's
there's a
gonna take
recipe catalog down over here.
Oh, wait. Sorry.
There's even Node.js. GitHub Actions. Wow. That's amazing. Cucumber. Wow, that is insane. And so it's just additive, right? So you just keep on adding. So
Yep.
if you happen to have upgrade to Cucumber JVM 7, 5, and 2, it'll determine which version you're at, and then climb that ladder if need be. Cool. All right. Well, very excellent.
So
Okay. I don't know if
should move on.
anyone's having trouble with their mic. Everyone okay?
Yeah, we're good. I
All
was waiting
right.
for the birds to go away, but I think they're all
Oh,
good
okay.
now.
Well, we could move over to JetBrains Aqua.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and I've been tracking this one because I've been thinking of expanding my consultancy and my training catalog to testers. I did one testing class. It went okay, but it's definitely a big thing. And so I guess Aqua is because a lot of testers don't necessarily need, well, I'm not sure if I like to say this or not. I don't know if they'd officially ever need a one IDE, but like multiple things, just because a lot of testing frameworks are either Java based or they're JavaScript based or they're Ruby based. And so having like one IDE for testers that would have the different quality of tests, I think that's where this comes in. But if you disagree with me, let me know. But yeah, that's something new that's just come out.
Yeah, so I've never used Aqua, but I know that it's the first actual general release that it would just have come available, correct? I think it was in
Yeah,
pre-release before that.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. And
So if
there's
you
an image here. So like your Selenium with PyTest. So, as an example, you could have one project that is Python, that is JavaScript, because you're testing React components and React in general. Playwright, Cypress, and Playwright and Cypress. I know Cypress, that Cypress is a lot like what Selenium is, but it's more JavaScript based. Has a wonderful UI that goes along with it. And Cypress can also test JavaScript components. So that's pretty cool stuff as well. But yeah, you have everything on here, Maven projects or whatever. So if you are an aggressive tester, then yeah, this project seems like it'd be a wonderful addition.
another nice feature that I see is that you won't have to jump out to your browser to test and then jump back into the IDE, because that's what
Right.
I think most people are used to doing. If you're developing web applications, you're making a change in the IDE or whatever, and then jumping back to the browser, or even going to the JavaScript tools within the browser and whatnot. It's all integrated in the IDE. You don't have to jump
Yeah.
back and forth. Everything is right there.
Yeah, looks great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know that I think like, VS Code and IntelliJ do support the ability to connect to the browser, and theoretically do the debugging there, but it never seemed to be that seamless to me.
Yeah.
So
But tools like Cypress open up a browser for you anyway as well. I think Selenium does too, right?
yeah, but what you want those to be if you want to step through that, if you want to pause. 'Cause I've actually been working on build pipelines for Selenium tests lately. So you want sometimes to be able to pause the test and troubleshoot what's going
Right.
on, right?
Out the
That's
variable and whatnot.
yeah, exactly. And that's when you want to want the developer tools to work with whatever browser just got launched,
Yep.
So
That is right.
cool.
Cool.
So the next one I think is a great topic. There is a new open source foundation called Common House. Was this announced at DevNexus? Or
Yes, it was. It was announced
Mhm.
at two events, at DevNexus on April 9th and at JavaLand in Germany.
Right. So, I mean, I'll tell you what I've been meaning to do this whole podcast is actually just share my screen here. So I apologize for not doing this earlier. If I can find it, here we are. Okay. All right. So building a forever home for open source projects. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to the sustainability of open source libraries and frameworks. We want projects to succeed on their own terms. At the Common House Foundation, we're committed to creating a collaborative environment that nurtures the growth and sustainability of projects and their communities. Our guiding principles are straightforward yet impactful. Honor the project and the community integrity, offer guidance and support instead of imposing mandates, maintain transparency in all of our actions, and encourage long-term thinking for sustained project impact. They've got a few big projects there. They've got EZMorph, Hibernate, which is fascinating, Jackson, which is the most popular JSON library, JBang, which is for launching Java apps quickly, and JReleaser, of course, Morphia, Obgenesis, and
Genesis.
Genesis, thank you. OpenRewrite and SDK Man. And what's cool is a lot of these are like relatively new popular projects, which is a good sign, except for like Hibernate, which is relatively old, popular project. And EZMorph is old too. But anyway, so Andres, since you're actually in the organization or JReleaser is, maybe you can tell us a little more about it and why you joined.
Right. So the first of some of the audience members will probably remember or think that the common house harkens back to the code house. And that is for a reason. We have the code house as part of the DNA. So for those that didn't know, what the code house was, a code hosting solution for many years ago, almost at the same time as SourceForge, but also a community, not just the code hosting. So what we want to do with common house is bring those back at these ideas of community, and but making sure that the foundation itself does not push its mandates into the project. So right now, Hibernate has its own ways to deal with their community and their issues and tracking everything else. So they will continue to do that the same way. The Common House Foundation will probably have some ideas and advices of how things could be done in a certain way. And the projects, the member projects, will have the option to take into those advices or just continue to use whatever they want. So we are not going to push down a process or a way to do things. The projects will continue to do so. We also would like to ensure that if the current maintainers, for whatever reason, decide to do something else and then go away and to stop working on the project, well, the community will likely die very quickly. So we want to avoid that, and that's part of the continued success. The foundation will work with the current maintainers and the rest of the members of the community to ensure that there will be someone always available to keep going with the project. So we'll find ways with each one of these different projects, each one of the member projects, it will be pretty much an ad hoc solution for each one of them because all the communities are different. And finally, we would like to have the option to sponsor the projects and to funnel funds into each one of the projects. So what happens in some other places is that you can definitely sponsor, and some companies can give out money to the foundations, and then that's where it stops. You have no clue when and where the money is going. We will have full transparency in this case. So no matter how much you sponsor, and it could be little, it could be much, it could be recurring, it could be one time, it's up to you, then you will know where those funds are going.
Fantastic.
And I think at DevNexus, I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but we were thinking, it may have been Freddie actually, but we're thinking it sort of sounds like it's in between Eclipse and Apache in some ways, in terms of like the way it's structured. What is your take on it? Because Eclipse, and I know from working with Eclipse, I'm the spec lead for the documentation for JakartaEE project. So now I have a much better understanding about how Eclipse works. They have a very specific way of doing things. They have processes in place and things like that. And Apache seems to be a little more freeform in that respect. But I was wondering what your take was on that.
So the existing foundations, they do have reasons to have the processes and everything that they will expect a member project to follow. And again, it makes sense for them. And all the projects that join those foundations should agree and must agree with everything that comes with it. So for everything else, there's always a pro and a con. And whoever decides to join these foundations have to comply with both of those things. We think that we want to go into a different way. Again, that's the reason why we will not push mandates into the projects, which is one thing that these other foundations do. Again, there is a reason for having those processes. We just want to have a different way to do things, such that it's lightweight, that is low governance, that the projects will continue to thrive, and we will find ways to help them to continue to do so.
Think about the question. Oh yeah, that makes sense to me. So I like the idea of not, it's not a heavy-handed organization, basically, is what you're saying. So how do new projects join?
There is discussion topic in our GitHub organization. We're currently doing everything via GitHub. So if you browse to the Common House Foundation organization on GitHub, there should be their GitHub repository or discussions. If you browse to discussions, you will see a handful of options out there. And then one of them is joining Common House on the left side. So you can open a new topic there, click on Join Common House, and then you say, hey, new discussion, such and such project would like to open, join the Common House, and then you follow the template, and there will be a discussion among all the project members, and eventually you will get a result, which is, yes, the project will join, or maybe it's the project may not be ready yet. We definitely would like to host as many projects as we can, but we're just getting started, and right now everybody's working in their own volunteer work. So we're hoping to have all kind of help with this foundation. It's not just we want sponsors, we want people joining because they want to help in handling on the foundation itself, but also helping the member projects. So if we can't have these additional like roadies or just additional temporary team members, if I can say so, that would like to help one of our current member projects in any way possible, that will be awesome as well.
Awesome. Okay, so you can find out more at commonhouse. Is it commonhouse.org? Yes,
Commonhouse.org, yes.
That's COMMONHAUS.org. Awesome.
That's the German pronunciation of house, yes.
Yes. All right, so we are rapidly running through our time budget here. So I think I would like to skip some of these items, but they're all really good items. So
I think we could probably just take care of one Oracle as far as the database goes, with the 23 AI free, the Docker images, and the Oracle container registry. I'm excited about those.
Let's jump to those.
And the reason I am, and then Andres can add more to it, but I really like test containers. And I've been promoting because I know a lot of shops use Oracle, and they're not going to stop using Oracle as a database. And great for just doing your database testing. And now that this is a free Oracle database, which I think is standard to much like how other Oracle databases should work, that you should be able to use that. So I'm really excited about that and having it as a Docker image. But Andres, I'll let you continue on that one.
Yep.
So specifically about this particular version, it's called the Oracle Database Free. That was actually released in April of last year. So it's been out for more than a year now. Yes, because this is the first time that the company does this. They release it as a developer early access release. And so we got plenty of feedback out of this, and we got through a couple of iterations. So the final version that you have nowadays, that was released in May, that the announcement was made on May 2nd of this year. And this is the fourth patch release. So this is the actual version number is 23.4. And this includes lots and lots of new features that make sense for developers. That's the reason why I'm so excited about this thing. Well, you can get it for free. You can use it in test, in development. You can also use it in production. You can run it on Linux. You can run it on Mac, Linux and Windows. And if you have a Mac, then you use the Docker images. Or you can run it anywhere where you have a Docker container or Podman. So it's up to you. It does provide a lot of new things, and the most remarkable one is the support for the vector data types. So because AI is all the rage nowadays, and you want to store data in vectors, well, guess what? You can also do it in Oracle in such a way that you can have vector columns and relational columns in the same table and have information that it goes along with one another, and you can query these things. And we also have vector search, and we can index vectors. So it is quite substantial, the support that we have right now for this version 23, which this is the reason why we decided to rename the version. It used to be 23C for cloud, and now it's 23 AI for artificial intelligence, because we're definitely going all in with this. But we also have other features such as other vendors used to have, or they have for many years now, this capability of some like drop table X if not exist, or drop table X if exists. So this if exists or if not exists clause, additional things, we did not have in Oracle before, but now we have, finally. So that means that it reduces the amount of DDL that you have to write, but also integrators such as Hibernate or those other ORMs that will generate the DDL for you, instead of having pages and pages of things for all these typical use cases. Now it's just one sentence as everybody else. We also have a Boolean type, finally. In the past, you used to do integers or a character, but now you finally have a Boolean type. And we have excellent support for JSON. We even have this feature called JSON relational duality view that allows you to have one copy of the data as relational table, but you can get that data out as a JSON document, and you can also get a JSON document as an input for inserts and updates, while at the same time still being able to insert or take out information using relational, again, because it's just one copy of the data. And
that's nice.
This makes a lot of sense that you're building REST APIs and you just know what's the shape of the document, and you don't need an ORM for this. Just send the document to the database, and the database will let you know first if it's a valid JSON document, is it syntactically valid, and secondly, if it's semantically valid according to the mappings that you define. So if you send some properties that should not be part of the this moving schema that you have for the JSON document, then the database will let you know, and they will throw an exception and throw an error, and then you can tell, oh, this is because the document is not valid for this and this. And just like that, and there are a few other things that we can talk about this, but basically you can have access to the database for free. And you can run it on Docker containers. There are a couple of images you can get access to from the official place, which is the Oracle Container Registry, or you can get it from GitHub. There is this other organization. No, it's not an organization. It's coming from an Oracle employee whose name is Gerald Wenzel. He's taking the official images and compress them as much as possible, so that if you run with test containers, nice, you only have to download less than 1 gigabyte, and these images start in about 10 seconds. So that makes your test cases much, much faster.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when you first mentioned this, I was thinking this would be cool because what my headphones died. What for one of my clients, they're a SQL server shop, but it was, we basically were able to take a Docker image and use it in test containers and run, all sorts of stuff against it. Using SQL Server, and it's been very handy. One of the things that was a little frustrating is that there is a bug they were having that was related to the Linux kernel. It took them forever to fix it. It's like, dude, it's running inside containers, and like this bug is making it like crash after a while inside of a Linux, inside of a certain version of the Linux kernel, which was frustrating. But my point is that knowing now that I could do the same thing for a client that's using Oracle is pretty cool. I did have one question though. So you said, going back to the free database thing. So obviously for development, free, good to go. You said you can actually use it in production for free?
Yes, you can do this in production, but as you can see, you have a limit of, you can only go up to 2 CPUs. You can address 2 gigabytes of RAM and up to 12 gigabytes of user data. So
right,
if your production requirements, and you don't get any security patches for this as well, if your production requirements fit within these constraints, then you should good to go. Wow. But if you need more data, if you need clustering solutions and sharding and then you definitely will have to go into the other options, which we have the enterprise option and we have the standard option. And these are for the on-premises version. So you also have access to the cloud version of the database, is the autonomous database, for which we do have also access to the free version. If you sign up for and the autonomous database offers the same features as the free version. That means whatever described about the Boolean types and the vector API, and we also support all the kind of different formats. So it's JSON and columns, all kind of NoSQL besides relational, all of them, all these formats living under the same roof. The JSON relational duality view, all these things are available both on the on-premise version of free and the autonomous database, the cloud edition.
Gotcha.
So really quick here on the vector side, the way I interpret a vector database is you have an X, Y, Z graph address location where a entry point is located. And I'm trying to oversimplify it for my sake and maybe an audience sake, but I could be wrong about that. But it seems like since you have both, what does it mean to be a vector, and how does it link? Let's say if I want to have a vector entry, how do I link that to a relational entry?
Well, so the vector will still be a collection of numbers, and that collection of numbers will be on that particular column. But the entry, there will be a collection of numbers in one row column. And the same row, you will have strings and booleans and integers, everything else that will try to match specific properties for which you want to address them directly, but what they are. Because on the vectors, you also have these properties, but they are encoded in numbers.
Right.
So now that these two different kind of data, the vector and the other typical relational columns are on the same row, then you can do your matches much easily.
Okay.
So the vector is just a data type.
Yes, the vector is a data type.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that it's sort of like, I guess it's sort of like JSON in some respect, in the sense that everybody wants to be able to retrieve and store JSON in some way. Because I remember doing that different than what you were describing, Andres, where you're sort of mapping JSON objects to tables, but I remember storing like a JSON type, and doing queries against that with PostgreSQL like many years ago,
Yeah.
So now it's like everybody is doing everyone supports vector databases, which is great for us as developers, right?
Yes, the good thing is that we have so many different options. It's not just Oracle, obviously. There are so many other vendors. But I am biased when I say that Oracle is the one that supports the most formats of relational and NoSQL and all these things under one roof on the same database engine.
Right.
Just one thing I wanted to mention to kind of piggyback on the Oracle database is that I've been using a lot of Oracle RESTful data services, ORDS, and that's a really nice tool that you can use to develop web services just using an SQL query, and I think pairing it along with 23AI is going to really be powerful.
Right, because for those people that don't know, ORDS is basically a web application that sits on top of your database and exposes your database to REST very easily, so you don't have to write the REST controller to do all the CRUD operations. That's what ORDS does, plus so many other things. So if you pair your database with ORDS and a JSON relational duality view, then you just start sending JSON documents to the database and everything else is taken care of.
Right.
Wow.
You don't have to build it yourself. It's just there. Just connect the dots and boom, you're done.
Is there any GraphQL support currently?
There is another software that Oracle is called Apex, which is a low-code solution.
Okay.
Most of the Apex applications are database-driven, and Apex can connect to ORDS. So you put all these things together and you can write an application with the minimum code on your side using UI click and point kind of style. And yep, you should be ready to go very quickly.
One other use case for that is if you've got a cloud application where their data is in the cloud you've got RESTful web services that you can use to access that data, you can combine ORDs with Apex and sync the data coming from that cloud into a local database, Oracle database. And you can set it up to do that on a time basis, and it's really nice.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. Again, we're just happy providing tools for developers, and some of these tools happen to be commercial, some other happen to be free and not open source, and some other happen to be fully open source. So Oracle produces all kind of software for you. You just have to know these things exist, and that's why we're here.
Right. Well, I think it's encouraging. It's really nice to see that. I you know, from a development perspective, which is awesome. So, so thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. So we should probably move on. I want to skip the JUP one because we should be wrapping up. But I did want to mention this new initiative of the open source community. I'm sorry, the the headline is the open source community is building cybersecurity processes for CRA compliance. And CRA is the European Union's Cyber Resilience Act, which is good because EU usually is pretty grandiose in their regulations, I should say. So I'm not super familiar with this law, but I did think it was interesting that the Apache Software Foundation, the Blender Foundation, OpenSSL Software Foundation, PHP Foundation, Python Software Foundation, Rust Foundation, and the Eclipse Foundation are all working together to create a framework for CRA compliance. You know anything about this law, Andres?
It's kind of like, as I understand it, it's kind of the parallel that I don't know if it's a recommendation or a law also in the US, that software vendors that deal with the government in the US have to provide SBOMs at some point of this year. So this has been known for a couple of years now, so that the vendors will be ready and all the providers as well. And so it's finally happening. So it's the same thing is going to happen here in Europe, and that's the Cyber Resilience Act.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry about that. Okay, that's awesome though, because I think I'm really pleased with this whole push as an industry to be more secure, and actually know what's in our software. So that's awesome. All right.
Glad a topic for why terrible things.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Say it again.
So circling back to the previous talk that we have with JReleaser, and that I mentioned bombs, SPDX, and SWIT, all these things. That's the reason why the tool is providing all these features and the power now, because security or server supply chain is now much more important than it was before, because we now have the government rule laws that will check if you are doing these things or not. Before it was a thing to have. Now is that you must do it, and if you don't, you're out of the game.
Wow.
Right.
Yep.
That makes total sense.
Yep.
Okay. So, we lost our guest. Okay. Hopefully he'll be back soon. All right. I know his connection was he's at a hotel in Italy right now, so his connection's a little wobbly. Look, there he is. Welcome back.
Here we are.
Something happened.
Well, at least you sound a little better now, so this is good. All right, so let's run through our picks because I need to get going.
Right on.
So I have a pick. For those of us who are afflicted with snoring, you should check out this Snore Lab app. There's an iOS version, there may be an Android version too. But it's really handy because, like, I'll tell you personally, with me, I've always snored a little bit or a lot, depending on perspective, but I think, oh yeah,
Depends who's next to you,
yeah, yeah. So
commenting on it.
when I got back from India, I'm all happy, to be back to my own comfortable bed, um, and and then I kept my wife up all night snoring, and then I think, oh, and she'd had been having trouble sleeping, so I'm like, all right, well, let me just sleep in another room so you can sleep, and I'm still sleeping in that room because I've been snoring so much, I've been keeping her up. So this app is cool. It basically just records you all night. But it actually keeps snapshots of you snoring so you can hear yourself, and has a graph showing how loud it is. So like there's epic is like, the worst snoring level, and there's different ones. And then it gives you a snore score for the overall score and everything. My results were pretty damning, I will say. But it was good to know, because then then you have empirical data, and you can see, the different things affect you. Like if you have a few drinks, do you snore more, or or if you're really tired, do you snore more, or things like that. So it's pretty handy, cool snore lab.
Or if you're sick, yeah, there are a lot of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Also, here's the other weird thing. Snorers will fall asleep very easily at night. With you hit the pillow and you're done.
Yep.
Whereas like and many of us probably maybe we're not some of us here are not afflicted with sleep apnea, but for those who are, if you remember being a kid when you didn't snore as much, you were up, like you had a hard time going to sleep. Like that's the natural way of like going to sleep. You gotta like wind down. Maybe after 30 minutes you go to sleep. But people with sleep apnea, boom, they're out and they go to sleep very quickly. And it was my dentist that told me, and it was, you're out of oxygen and you don't really get a good night's sleep. So the moment you hit that pillow, your body's just going to take it as fast as possible, and so you fall asleep a lot quicker, which is
Yeah.
a nice thing, but it's also a horrible thing, and as well.
Right. And I actually did last night. I got my results from my sleep test, not from this app, but from a separate test that I did at home.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you have sleep apnea. You're screwed. No.
Yeah.
And then I get to do the CPAP and all that fun stuff. So yes. And I do fall asleep right away. So
Right. Yeah.
so yeah. So that's my pick. I won't go on with bore you with more sleeping details, but that's my pick. I have one more, which is Olama. This is not related to snoring. And Olama is basically a little app you can install on Mac OS, Linux, or Windows. And then you can run any of the popular AI models or LLMs that you want to run on your own computer without using any cloud. So you can use it for Llama 3, Phi 3, Mistral, Gamma, or Gemma, which is probably how you pronounce it, and other models. And it's really cool. It's just a command line tool, and you can just pick the model, it downloads it, and then you can just chat away with it, just like, like you would do with OpenAI, but it doesn't have a cool user interface, basically. It's just a chat.
Nice.
So
Cool.
those are my picks.
Next one's Josh.
Yep. So I've just been working with the Oracle Generative AI certification recently. This is a new certification that Oracle is offering for their OCI generative AI platform, and it's pretty slick. So far I'm probably about halfway through the course, and it gives you a lot of information about LLMs and just lots of low-level information, as well as information that's specific about their cloud and their platform. So I thought it was a good thing to mention, and you can actually get trained for free until the end of July. So if you are able to get in there and get this course in and under your belt before the end of July, you could possibly get certified for free here.
Sweet.
Nice.
All right. Mine here is AI Assistant. I think I brought it up before, but it was clunky and weird. I do pay for it, but now it's paying off. I just wanted to report that. I love the idea of highlighting anything and then doing an option, or is it option enter? and you have an AI option there, and it just, you can ask it, do something about the selection, and it will go ahead and do that for you. It's not overwriting your code like it did in the past. So I'm getting more positive results from it. So just thought I'd mention that.
And this is a JetBrains tool, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And
JetBrains.
the plugin, and what I like, I signed up to because I kind of feel like it's our job to sign up for all these tools, at least understand. But I like the fact that it gives you a diff when it makes the code suggestion. You can see a diff between its changes in the original, which a lot of tools don't. They just like throw their crap in there. So
right.
That's really
That's
cool.
nice.
All right, Andres.
I have two picks. One of them is just I discovered this Japanese band called Wagaki Band like 2 years ago, and I've been using that to just listen in the background while I was coding JReleaser. So this is a kind of interaction with these two things. But sadly, the band has disbanded this year after 10 years. But the link that I put to that particular song that is there is called Homura is gonna blow your brains out. If you're a metalhead, and you like Japanese music, this is the thing that you must listen to.
Nice.
That I'm just gonna put it out there. And the second thing that I want to say, the other pick is close to software, which is I used to write a lot of commit messages. They were just throwaway commit messages. And I went back to the history when looking into IntelliJ IDEA, also doing the diff. I didn't know exactly what was happening. That message doesn't give you any kind of information on what I did for that particular thing, right? So I started to look into ways to format my messages. And I encountered this convention called conventional commits, conventional-commits.org, if I'm not mistaken. And if you follow that convention, then you not only do you have a much clearer view of what you did, and you can follow the history, but it also kind of pairs with semantic versions. So it's very easy now to know, should the next release that you're going to post, should it be a build release, should it be a patch release, or should it going to be a major? Because depending on the metadata that you might sprinkle in your message, you will immediately know that you made a breaking change. So that's immediately a jump to major. Or you added a new feature that definitely has to be at least a minor release. Or you didn't add a feature, it's only fixes. So, that's clearly a build release. So you can decide much easier where to go. And one of the last things that I want to say about conventional commits is that it feels a bit like you're constraining yourself too much because you have to write things in a certain format. But once you get used to it, I find myself that I can size my commits much better, because I know I can just do whatever I want eventually, but I will squash my commits. And if what I'm trying to write down as that this is what has happened does not match what actually is going to be in the code, maybe I need to split this into 2 or 3. So that's much better. So it takes a little bit of practice, but once you get into that, the rhythm is just perfect.
Sounds like you'll have to learn the heck out of get rebase -I in order to do that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think AI Assistant would probably recognize conventional commits. I think it just writes a commit, but I think that'd be a fantastic job for AI in order to help out with that. But I don't think it's quite there yet.
Indeed.
All right. Well, I'm bringing shame to our family here. I didn't know this existed. I use something called Scala FMT, Scala format. In Scala, what it'll do is just like put the correct spacing, whatever it is you want, and you could put a formula as to how your code should look, and then therefore it's consistent. And you can put that as part of a Git hook, and everything is gonna format well, or however you want to go about doing that. And I thought, hey, that was cool. I wish I had that in Java. And they were like, yeah, we do. And it's called Spotless. And Spotless will use other formatters as well. And it is a Maven plugin. And I'm sure, Andres, you know about it probably already, right?
Yeah, and there's a Grail plugin if you're into that as well.
Oh, there's a Grail plugin as well? Okay, excellent. Yeah, so if you want to format your code using a particular formula, then yeah, check out Spotless. And then my other 2 videos, since we're talking about SQL, These two are from Asianometry, which is a channel that I absolutely love. And he has a two-part series. One is on the beginnings of SQL and how it got started and how this was a really, really, really hard thing to do. How you create queries effectively. Like joins were just like, no one's going to do joins. That's hard. How is it you're going to do that? So the beginning of SQL and then the rise of Oracle SQL and relational databases. And he goes through the entire history of databases. Asianometry has a lot of excellent stuff. One of my other favorite ones is, I didn't post it here, but the history of Wang computers. I don't know if any of you remember that in the 80s, but yeah, a lot of great stuff there. So Asianometry is the name of that channel.
Okay, so I think that takes us to. I'm trying to edit the show notes here, but that's not working.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for now, but yeah.
All right, so
I tried.
all right, so I think that takes us to the end of our picks. And just shout out to a couple other shows in the Pub House network, the Off Heap podcast and the Java Pub House podcast. You should check out both of those. And I should mention that I was actually on the let's see if they have it. Yes, I was on Off Heap number 79 at DevNexus. We had the CTO. Actually, no, that was a different one. Anyways, I was on 84. That was it. Yes. And we had a couple folks from a company called God, I forgot the name of the company. It was a company that was doing security work. You should check it out, Off Heap. You can find it on your latest podcast app. And you can find all the podcasts at pubhouse.net. And let's just wrap up with a few events. So hopefully this will be out by UberConf, which is July 16th through 19th. And where is UberConf? It's Denver. Okay. It's in Denver.
Or Westminster, to be honest. Yeah. Outside of Denver.
Okay. jconf.dev is in Dallas, Texas, September 24th through 26th. And Andres will be there. Cool. You said you would be there, right?
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay, good. I was like, I thought you said he would. And Code.talks, September 19th through 20th in Hamburg, Germany. A couple DevOps Morocco, October 2nd through 4th, and Marrakech, Morocco, and DevOps Belgium, the mothership.
Marrakech, yeah.
Thank you. DevOps Belgium, October 7th through 11th in Antwerp, Belgium. Code Motion, October 22nd through 23rd in Milan, Italy. And you want to take the other ones, Danno?
Sure. Twin Cities, Minneapolis, or No Fluff Just Stuff, August 9th through 10th. Northern Virginia, in Software Symposium. And I forgot where that was. It's close to the airport. There in near Dulles, September 5th through 6th. Central Iowa, which will be in Des Moines, September 12th through 13th. DevOps Vision, which is going to be our Florida show, all about DevOps and operations, December 2nd through 4th. This may include ML Ops, so I just got word of that, and I'm pretty excited about that one. Tech Leader Summit, December 4th through 6th. These are for tech leaders. And ArchConf, which is for architectural-based stuff. That'll be December 9th through 12th. And I could take this next one as well, because I'll be there, and I don't know who else is going to be there. But Dev2 Next, also fondly called by me, VenKatConf. This is Venkat Subramaniam's conference, and Andres will be there as well, September 30th, October 3rd at Lone Tree, Colorado. I don't know if anyone else is going to be there as well.
Nope.
Sounds like a good one. And I should just mention real quick that Jakarta One live stream will be happening again this year in December. Actually, there is one happening in September, the Chinese Jakarta 1 live stream, and then in December the 3rd of 2024 will be Jakarta live stream, the standard.
Cool. Excellent.
All right. Well, it looks like we've come to an end of another stacked podcast. So,
Yeah.
Andres, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, this was fun.
Yeah, and also I'm actually a little excited about the Oracle stuff. So that was good news, and I know it's good for your day job too. So it's a good thing. So yeah, thanks for coming. And Josh and Danno, hopefully we'll do this again next month.
Sounds good.
And thanks everybody for listening, and
Yeah.
have an enjoyable spring.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.